They shot Dane Cooper with a plasma pylon at dawn in front of 400 witnesses, and the only thing that died was a smoke detector. He stood in the scorched restraints, patted out a small flame on his sleeve, and asked the stunned execution detail, very politely, where a man could find Form 12C. Let me back up. The Vekhar Dominion runs the tightest border sector in the spiral arm, and it runs on paperwork the way engines run on fuel. Everything requires a permit. Breathing is free, but exhaling near a government building is taxed. So when a human freighter mechanic on a 6-hour refuel stop noticed that the public water recycler in Dockside Plaza was 3 days from bursting, and fixed it with a wrench, a coil of wire, and 40 minutes of whistling, the Dominion did not say thank you. The Dominion charged him with unlicensed infrastructure interference, capital offense, sentencing at sunset, execution at dawn. The magistrates expected begging. Humans were new to the sector, and new species always begged. Instead, the human asked exactly one question at his sentencing. Can I see the technical specifications of the execution pylon? Prefect Ulan Voss, teal-skinned, iron-spined, 20 years of flawless service pressed into a gray uniform, assumed it was some alien death ritual, reviewing the instrument of your own end. The Dominion respected ritual. Request granted. The human read all 900 pages in his cell, cover to cover, and then did something no condemned prisoner had ever done. He asked for a wrench. Absolutely not, said Voss. And a hex driver. Look, Prefect. The human turned the schematics around and tapped a diagram with the calm of a man discussing weather. Your pylon's discharge regulator was last serviced 11 years ago. The capacitor bank drifts. When it fires tomorrow, it won't put out a clean bolt. It'll arc. The pylon is rated for it will arc, the human said, sideways, into the crowd barrier, which is metal, which 400 of your citizens will be leaning on because public executions are apparently what passes for theater around here. He slid the page across. You're not going to execute one human tomorrow, Prefect. You're going to electrocute the front 3 rows. Voss took the schematics to 2 Dominion engineers that night. The first said the human was wrong. The second, older one, went very quiet, ran the numbers twice, and started drafting his resignation. There was no legal mechanism to delay an execution. There was, however, no regulation forbidding a condemned prisoner from performing licensed maintenance, provided he held a valid permit, and the Dominion, at 2 in the morning, discovered to its institutional horror that the human did. Galactic Standard Certification, Class 1, Infrastructure and Heavy Systems, issued by the Terran Guild, recognized under treaty. His permit was, in fact, the only valid one on the entire station. The Dominion's own engineers had let theirs lapse during a fee dispute. Which is how, at 4 in the morning, the condemned man came to be hanging off the side of his own execution pylon with a borrowed hex driver, humming, while Prefect Voss held the light and questioned every decision that had led her to this moment.
You understand, she said, that you are repairing the machine built to kill you. It was pointed at more than me. He swapped the drifted capacitor, torqued the housing, and rebuilt the discharge regulator so the pylon would do exactly what its safety specs said it should do with an unstable charge, vented as a harmless calibration pulse. Light, noise, smoke, 0 delivery. He wasn't cheating his sentence, he explained, wiping his hands. He was bringing the equipment up to code. What the equipment then did was between the equipment and its documentation. You could have said nothing, Voss said quietly. You could have let it arc in the chaos. Prefect, the human said, there's a kid who sits on that barrier every morning to watch the ships. Green scarf, misses her left front tooth. He handed back the hex driver. Some math you don't do. She stood there for a 20-year-long moment. 20 years of flawless service rearranging themselves around a species she had sentenced yesterday and could not stop looking at today. At dawn, the Dominion executed Dane Cooper in full accordance with procedure. The pylon roared, the crowd gasped, the smoke rolled, and when it cleared, the human was standing in the scorched restraints, entirely alive, checking his own pulse with theatrical concern. The pylon had performed a flawless calibration vent, precisely as its manual required. The crowd went insane. The kid in the green scarf cheered so hard she fell off the barrier into her mother's arms, which was the only casualty of the morning.
Dominion law was ancient and unambiguous. A sentence carried out is a sentence complete. He could not be executed twice for the same offense. He was, at 7 minutes past dawn, legally the freest being on the station. The Dominion, for its part, spent the morning in emergency session, attempting to locate a form with which to stop him. There wasn't one. 3 centuries of bureaucracy have produced forms for revoking permits, voiding citizenships, impounding ships, and, memorably, retroactively taxing a comet. No one had ever needed a form for a man who survived his own execution by fixing it, because no one had ever imagined the paperwork would hold. The Chancellor of Records, an 80-year-old Vekhar who had personally authored 4,000 regulations, read the human's file twice, closed it gently, and said the words now engraved over the prefecture door. The system worked. I hate it. By noon, he was at the prefecture counter, still lightly smoking, filing Form 12C, Report of Hazardous Public Equipment. Attached, 11 pages of documentation on the pylon's decade of neglect. Attached also, Form 91, Reimbursement Claim for Materials Used in Emergency Repair of Government Property. 1 capacitor, 1 roll of wire, 40 minutes of labor at guild rates. Voss processed it herself. Her hands, she was surprised to find, were not entirely steady. The Dominion, she said, does not apologize. Didn't ask it to. It owes me 62 credits.
And here is the part the sector still tells over dock bar tables. Dominion law contained one more ancient clause, written back when the pylons were new. Any citizen whose equipment report exposes systemic negligence shall be appointed to oversee its correction. Voss read it aloud twice. The human's execution had made him a citizen, sentence complete, record sealed, standing restored. The complaint was approved at noon. Which is why, if your freighter ever limps into Vekhar space, your safety inspection will be conducted by a human with a guild permit, a Dominion badge, and a smile that suggests he has read your ship's manual more recently than you have. The engineers renewed their certifications within the month. The water recycler in Dockside Plaza has never run better. And the girl in the green scarf sits on a new barrier now, rated, grounded, and installed the code by the inspector himself, who checks it every morning at dawn in the exact spot where the smoke used to be. The Dominion never did say thank you, but 62 credits arrived by courier with interest, and a form he'd never seen before. Form 1, Commendation. He framed it. Humans are sentimental like that, about paperwork, and about dawns, and about every small thing that refuses to die. Oh, and if you're wondering, the execution pylon was decommissioned last spring and sold at auction. The buyer was Inspector Cooper. It's a coffee machine now. He says it makes the only brew in the sector with a legally documented kill count of 0.
If stories like this make you smile, consider subscribing. Even though I'm an old, tried and true, these things aren't advertisements. Your support genuinely keeps these stories coming. It means the galaxy to this little community. New story tomorrow. Tony.